Alright, we're going to do a quick tutorial or a run over of the universal pin station today. I'm going to show you some of the differences and how to take it apart and reassemble it. Try and do this as quick as we can. First of all, you can notice something major. Your retaining bows here, you have your retaining bow with a flap, and you have a retaining bow without a flap. Your retaining bow without the flap is going to go on your 7 and your 10 pin, and that is so this flap, let me slide this one back. When the pin drops in on this flap, the flap itself is going to hold against the belly of the pin right here. So that lets the ejector flap is going to lay down and let the pins go past. Well, we always want that 7 and that 10 pin to always be double loaded as quick as they can, since it takes the longest time for it to travel on the distributor to get back to those stations. So that's why this has a no flap on it. So once the pin drops in, the flap will come back up even though the pin is right here. So it's ready to double load another one back to back. Alright, so the difference is, first of all, you can see the ejector flaps are different. You got different directions. Wow, I could sure use a little bit better. There you go, so you can just see it's kind of hard with all the black in the image. Okay, so I am going to pull. You have retaining. You have your retention pins, which are right here and right here. It's going to need a little light on the subject. Right there is a retention pin, and same thing on this side. You got one right there, center of the light. You can pull those pins out like that, both sides. Set them down, the flap just comes right out. Alright, something about the retention pins you need to understand. There is a right and a wrong way to put it in there. They'll fit in there both ways, it doesn't matter, it's a square peg, so it goes in. But there's more strength. You cannot break this as well this direction. However, if I had it this direction where you can see how thin it is and the light coming through it, I could just bend that and snap it right off. So you'd want the strength side to be against your square shaft. Wow, the black in this image really just kills it trying to explain it. Let's pull the shaft out. Now they got the shaft out. You want the rigidity of that leg to be against that shaft like that. You wouldn't want the clip side to be against that. To be against the shaft like that. It would just snap those little teeth off with the pressure and the shear force. Alright. So you do have, let's show you the different parts in these. Pull two apart real quick. There it is. Alright, so the difference in these, so you got your springs, you got your left hand and your right hand tension springs. You can obviously see they're going different ways. Let's see if I can get it up a little better. See how they're wound both different ways? That's a difference in these stations. Your tension springs are different. You've also got a left and here's a left and a right hand cam. Set those down so you can kind of get a visual on them. You can see the differences in those two cams. Also, your ejector flaps are different. Pull one off this way, you should be able to see it better. There you go. So you got your ejector flaps, 2 different directions. You got your cams, 2 different ones of those, and you got your tension springs. So those are the parts that are different on these universal assemblies. Everything else just goes back and forth. Even you have a bevel gear shaft. Like that, get you a better look. The bevel gear shaft does work for both directions. It's not just... Okay, so I'm going to take it completely apart. Pop out my cam assembly. I'm going to show you how to get this thing back together. So I've got the universal station housing here. Alright. I'm going to pause this for a minute, and I'm going to try and get a little bit better light since it's so dark on this. Alright, hope that's a little bit better on the light, so you can see everything that's going on here in this universal station. Alright, so first thing we want to do is we're going to decide which way it's going to go, and that's going to determine with the ejector flap. You'll know whichever way the flap is, that it's got the tip or the tilt, that's the way the pin's got to go. You want your pin to go in this direction towards wherever your retaining bow is going to be. So if I turn this flap and put it in, it only really goes one way. You should understand that if you're working on this equipment. Sorry to phrase it that way. Okay. One thing you need to know is your ejector flap. Get it where it get a little better light here. That is not a round hole. Hopefully, as you can tell. And get this terminology right. Your ejector actuating lever is not round either. It is a shaped shaft as well. So pay attention to that. That's supposed to go into one certain direction in there. If you put it in a different direction, you kind of lock it. It's just so it holds the same, that it all works and moves at the same time with each other. That's why it's set up exactly that way. So don't put it in the wrong way out of the timing within the actual shaft itself, the hole itself. So let me see. I'll go ahead and just snap. Since I know that my ejector actuating lever, let's make sure. No. The ejector actuating lever has to work with the ejector and my bevel gear shaft. Exactly. Bevel gear shaft. Alright. Since my cam is going to go on this side, right here, and your cam, timing cam, it works in correlation with your ejector flap. Get a little bit better light there. See that little spot right there? That's where this ejector flap rests, right on that. That helps hold it up so it can divert those pins into the actual station itself. Alright? So I'm going to go ahead and that just snaps right in. And and the gear on the cam assembly, right here, those gears, those teeth gears, there you go, get a little better light. Those work in correlation with the teeth on this one. So I can get a little bit of light on it. Should be able to, there they are. See those teeth? Alright. When all is said and done, and it's lined up, you know that you need no teeth on the inside of the bow. All your teeth are going to be towards the cam assembly itself. Alright? So you get your retaining bow, you get your square shaft, and you got to get your proper springs. Just going to go that in. Sorry about this delay. Good. Okay. Now, your bevel gear shaft has a hole. It's so hard to point it out. Gonna need some light again. Your bevel gear shaft has a hole right in the tip of it there. Think you can see it in the light? Yeah, there it is. And that's where the straightened out short end of your spring is going to go right into that hole. So right now, it's inside there, it's holding it up. Alright? Now remember, all your teeth, all the tooth work, needs to be in towards that cam assembly. So whenever you put it into your shaft, like I said, go ahead and put them both together. When you put it in the retention bow and you put your shaft through the middle, just like so. Square shaft goes right in the square hole here. Put it right in. Get your spring lined up. So you got your bow all set up and ready to go in. Spring's ready. So you're going to think about, whenever you put these together, your tooth of your cam, so I can get it here lit, so you can understand, that top tooth on that gear of that cam assembly needs to go on top of the top tooth on your bevel gear. Alright? So you put it in. When they go together, right there. Okay. It's hard to see. Let's get there. Alright. So as you can see, well, let me tilt it, see if I can get you some. There we go. Right on there. That top tooth of that cam is on top of your bevel gear. Alright. So that's secured. We can go ahead and just snap these square pins in. Remember the way you got to put it in the right way so don't shear it off. Pin number 1. Pin number 2. There we go. And as you can see, that flap is still loose. That flap's going to stay loose until that tension spring right here on the end has been tightened. And that's going to be tightened with the that long end of the spring right there. Okay? We're going to bring it around. I'm going to bring it around. I'm going to tip it to the side. And I'm going to tuck it in this small spot. I'll show it from the bottom. There's a small little slit right there. That's where that spring's going to lock into. And there's a little there's a ground out valley, a channel here on the side. Makes it easier for you to push that spring through rather than pushing it out on the other side here. Alright? So I'm going to bring it on around and lock it in. There it is, locked into that valley. Now that you got that spring in, notice how that bow just stays right up. Alright, got that part in. Now go ahead and take your tension spring for your ejector flap tension spring. And there's a little clip. Put some light on this. Again, sorry. It's going to go right into that little bitty, fold the bow out of the way. And go right into that little bitty hook right there. There's a little bitty eyelet in it. There you go. You can see it right there. Alright. So I'm going to hook the spring right through that. There. The spring is in it. The shaped hole, I'm lining it up right in the middle. Wow. All this dark black plastic makes this a difficult. Alright. Difficult training video. So as you can see, it's right in the hole right there. I got them lined up. Alright. I'm going to bring it around. And you're going to see your ejector flap. Your ejector actuating lever also works in correlation with the cam here. It's going to keep the cam. I'm going to set that to the side for a second. When it snaps in, it's going to be, you can kind of see, I'm going to put it in just a little bit so you can tell how it went all the way in. See how it kind of has the shape of that cam on the back of it? That's so they work in correlation with each other, you know, almost like the ball doors. If you know about your ball doors on your GSX system, one can't open unless the other is shut. So they work in tandem with each other. Let me go ahead and pull this back out. Alright, so now we're going to put the spring back in. Spring is in. Got my ejector flap. I got it resting. You can rest it right on top of that cam in that notch right there. And then I'm going to go ahead and push. Get that in there. Go ahead and push that ejector actuating lever in. There you go. Back to the lighting. So you can see how they work with each other. When a pin drops into the actual holder and lowers the bow, I'm going to move it slowly. You're going to see how it pushes, how everything just works just like so. Get it right in the center here for you. Sorry about this, everybody. Could use a lot more movie set lights, but this is what we got. Alright, now if you ever have a situation where your ejector flap is straight up in the air, what has happened is your retaining bow, something on the table when it got jammed, it pushed your retaining bow too low. So I'm going to try and set you up here. As I push that bow too low, watch what happens with the ejector flap. See, it'll go down to let the other pins go past. But if it goes too far, ejector flap goes up, straight up. And then it doesn't, the whole system is just flawed now. It won't work. The way to recorrect that is just, you can do this from the top or from the bottom. It's easiest from the top. But just pull that flap all the way down. All the way down as far as you can. Not the flap, I'm sorry, the retention bow. Pull the retention bow down as far as you can. And then just push your flap, your ejector flap back down. Let your bow up. And you're all reset again. There you go. Now I'll try to put one together in front of you, the other parts, without the talking, and you can see how quickly it can go together. Cam's already in for me. Notice that square shaft can go in from either side. You can bring it in from the spring side or from the bevel gear side. 2 retention pins, put in the proper way. Come on. There we go. Wind your spring around, lock it in. Alright, I'm going to show you one thing in a second here. My timing is off on my cam. But I'm going to go ahead and I want to put everything together. And I'm going to show you how to correct that too, from as if it was inside the machine already. Hook on my ejector flap tension spring. Get in there. This is going to snap together a little off. Try and get this. Easy. Notice how it doesn't want to go together if it's not put together right. There we go. Alright, so my timing is off here on this cam. If it's in the machine, the easiest way, get a wire here. I usually use a wire. I keep a wire around, thin piece. If it's up in the machine, it's hard to get your fingers up in there to pull those pins out. But if you take a piece of wire, you can put it around the head of the pin and then pinch it tight, the wire behind it, and pull up. So you're actually hooking, get this out of the light, you're hooking the pin head like that. That's when you pull it up, or that retention pin. Okay, so you notice I only pulled out one side. If it's up in the machine, just pull out one side, tip your bow out a little, your retaining bow, and then re-rotate, or just rotate, your cam to get it timed right to where the tooth of that cam is on top of the tooth on that bow. The last tooth, the upper tooth on the cam, you're going to need more light. The upper tooth on the cam is up on, right on the top of your bow. It's above it. That's how you time it out right. Let's bring it up there. It is on top. Then just put your pins back in. Here's another thing. If you pull it out too far sometimes, you'll lose your tension in your spring, which I just did. It just sprung free. Don't worry about that. Just put it back in while it's still in the machine, the pin setter. Get this in here. Get your timing right on your cam assembly. go. And put your retention pin back in. Now you're still not done because your flap is still free floating out here. So we want to wind that spring around, lock it in. There we go. All good. Our timing over here is proper, because you can see that's retaining bow 101.